Okay, so here's a new challenge run idea. Beat the game with one of the party members that isn't Sam. So if I was going to choose of the vast roster, who would I select to beat the game with? Nice try. No, not taking Joel. Had enough of Joel. The party member I've decided to choose is Colonel Squeakems. And who could forget Colonel Squeakems' best friend, Rat Boy. Not that Rat Boy. The other one. The other Rat Boy. Ernest. So it's a Squeakems Ernest only run. But there's a couple of caveats. So let's get into the rules. Because of the recent difficulty balance and Ernest's recruitment method, I won't be able to true solo this run just with Ernest and Squeakems. It's not possible. That being the case, here's the deal. So Ernest and Squeakems are the only ones allowed to deal any damage in this entire run. Sam is in the party, but he's mostly dead, used as a human shield, or as a blood bag. I'll explain the blood bag thing later on, but it only comes into play into late game. I must defeat all of the newly updated bosses in the last patch, outside of Lee, because you cannot encounter her with Ernest. And the special exception to the rules for this run is Rat Hell. Now, I'm not going to be dealing any damage, but to get through Rat Hell in day 2, I did require additional human shields. It's not possible without it. I swear to God, I tried a lot. Now, because we're not using the main character of the game, Sam, as our main character, it changes a couple of things. Some interactions are a little weird, but we'll cover that as we go. This is a reset heavy run. It was really hard and it pissed me off a lot. So if you like seeing me angry, then you're in luck. With the formalities out of the way, let's jump right in. So we skipped ahead past the intro because we've all seen that 1,000 times. I've just come back from the apartment next door, the Observer apartment, after looting the fridge, because you get some bread and eggs and you can make an early sandwich for Ernest. Ernest's hideout is found on floor 1. Just follow the white arrows. You have to offer Ernest a sandwich for him and Squeakems to join you on day 1. They'll hang around near midnight. You can push it past midnight to about 3 AM, but then they'll instantly leave your party. Ernest is one of the only characters you can recruit day 1, although temporarily. He's still pretty powerful. I would suggest picking him up first, before anyone else, since he won't join you if anyone else is in your party. For anyone unfamiliar with Ernest, he's sort of like your schizophrenic, homeless uncle with a heart of gold. His best friend is a rat called Colonel Squeakems, who inhabits his jewelry slot in his equipment. It seems that Ernest used to be the lead singer in a band some time ago, before he lost his mind, so a lot of his abilities revolve around singing, or something to do with music. The first ability Ernest has access to is called Feedback. It kind of works like a shotgun blast. It hits everything in battle for a certain amount of damage that slowly increases as he goes up levels. It's one of his most useful abilities, and you get it straight off the bat. Super helpful against enemies like these rats that are numerous. All of Ernest's later abilities are songs that buff the party. So you've got an agility buff, a defense buff, a strength buff. Pretty good. Luckily, they also affect Ernest himself, otherwise they'd be completely useless for this run. Ernest's pal Colonel Squeakems has a unique function that only affects him. He stays in your jewelry slot, you can't get rid of him, so no rings in this run. But what he does do is auto attack every 2 turns. So at the end of a round, Colonel Squeakems will jump out, he'll attack a random enemy, and has a chance to blind them. Colonel Squeakems' damage increases with Ernest's level as well. He has a unique mechanic where you can feed him some cheese, and he'll freak out, and he'll attack 3 times instead of once, which is pretty sweet. Jumping back to the run now, we've collected the rat baby, and no, we're not going to feed it to the wall. It doesn't really matter what Sam has or has access to in this run, since he's not going to do anything. So we feed the wall our arm, I believe our ranged arm, but again, who cares? And we travel on. It's nice to have the rat. Ernest likes rats, so it kind of tracks that he would save the rat baby. Moving along to the Mars disk, we run into the rat freak. This guy isn't going to cause us much trouble because Ernest's feedback ability can just wipe all the rats he can spawn every turn he spawns them. The 9mm pistol does the rest of the heavy lifting for this fight. Also, if you haven't noticed already, I named my Sam Dead, and that's because he's going to be upholding a trend of being dead majority of the time. Sam's only function in this run is to be a human shield. My initial thoughts when I started this run is that Sam would be dead the entire time. Turns out I learned my lesson about that pretty early on, but I'll let you see it for yourself. Now that we have the planet discs, we're on ground floor and we're going to check out Mutt's shop. Also drop by the candy machine. Because we've got one character, we may as well try to boost Ernest's stats as much as possible throughout this run, which you can do by collecting the rare candies out of the candy machine. So fingers crossed. We've come down to the ground floor to check out Mutt's shop. Luckily for us, we got super good RNG and the chainsaw was here. We'll certainly come back for that once we can afford it. We're back up to floor 3 here just to clear up all of the scrub enemies that Sam had to run through at the beginning. This is just to try to gain some early levels, some early XP for Ernest, since these guys are pretty simple, low risk XP gains. So we're seconds from disaster, so I'll explain a little bit about the temporary nature of Ernest's recruitment on day 1. You hire him with a sandwich, he says he'll hang out with you till midnight. But what he actually means is that close to midnight, if you go home, he will leave your party. If you are out and about running around, he'll stick around till about 3 AM. He'll say, oh, it's past midnight, we should really be getting going, but I'll chaperone you home. If it's around that 3 AM mark and you walk through a level transition, then Ernest will just pop up saying, okay, Colonel's asleep, we've pushed it too far, we're just going to go, man, figure out your own way home. So that being the case, what do you think would happen if you walk through your front door and Sam is dead? Yeah, so the game over, Sam's dead and he's the only one in the party, you lose. So I figured that out. You're welcome. Also, I didn't return home in this run so far, so I didn't save at all. So, yay, reset time. Okay, I'm not going to put you through all of that again. Pretty much everything the same happened, except once we went down to the ground floor, Mutt had the stamina belt instead of the chainsaw. Total bummer. Oh well, what are you going to do? Okay, so this time we get home and Sam's alive. So Ernest goes home like he's supposed to. Alright, back on track. So now that Ernest has returned home, something special happens on day 2, which we'll need to be prepared for. Ernest will get kidnapped by the soldiers, the denizens, I guess, of Rat Hell, and held hostage. And you have to go rescue him with Colonel Squeakems. Usually, this gauntlet of rat enemies in Rat Hell, it's like 4 fights in a row. It's pretty tough by day 2. These guys don't muck around. You usually have to have a party in the level 6-7 range with some decent items. We have Sam and Squeakems, but that is it. Sam's level 4. He wasn't dead the entire time this time around, so he actually gained some XP. So let's go check out Rat Hell and see how possible this is. To access Rat Hell, first you have to go back to Ernest's house. Squeakems is there sitting on a dead body. You think it's Ernest, it's not really Ernest. He will attack you, don't attack him, and then he'll go, oh, follow me, and he'll run over to the hole in the wall that leads to Rat Hell. Make sure you don't attack him, or you've screwed this up. Alright, so Rat Hell. How are we going to do this? Sam can't attack. He can only sit there and block. Well, during this one portion of the game, Colonel Squeakems is attached to Sam as if he were Ernest. As in, he will run in and attack for you, and he's pissed off like he does get when you feed him a piece of cheese. So he'll attack 3 times every turn. And he's particularly powerful in this section. So the idea is Sam sits there and tries to survive. Colonel Squeakems massacres everything. Is that possible in practice? Well, I'm happy to report that the short answer is yes, it is possible. The long answer, it's incredibly bullshit and very hard to do. Reason being, defense got nerfed in the last patch, Sam sucks, and I don't have enough time to grind up abilities, gear, nearly anything. This is day 2. One possible combo that might work is getting the breastplate from Mutt's shop and also getting the training belt from Mutt's shop. But the odds of that happening in the first 2 days of a run are astronomical. I actually got really lucky and managed to score the breastplate on day 2 of this run. So this is the second attempt just trying to get into Rat Hell. Rat Hell, by the way, consists of 4 fights in a row. The first is the Sea of Rats, as you see here. The second is the Acid Spitter and the Lantern Holder. The third is 3 gladiator-looking douchebags. And the fourth is a choice between your champion. So you can choose the Rat Champion or the Chimera. Each one of these fights is incrementally harder, so the Sea of Rats is the easiest. We luckily managed to survive the Sea of Rats with our trusty breastplate, but let's see how well the next fight goes. So, Poison Rat and Lantern Rat. Poison Rat has 140 HP. He can poison you and infect you, which is fabulous. Lantern Rat has 200 HP, and he can set you on fire and multi-hit you, which again, awesome. We love that. So if Colonel Squeakems attacks 3 times each turn and does about an average of 15 damage, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. He's averaging out about 45 damage every turn. Sam will need to survive on average for 7 to 8 turns for Squeakems to win this fight. We lost that battle on round 3. I'm going to need some better gear to do this, and Pap has some really good beginning gear, so go to check on... that's right, Pap's dead. God damn it. Okay. We'll have to reset again if Pap is going to be a possibility. I did quickly look in Landlord's apartment because he's got some good stuff, but guess what? You can't actually progress in the Landlord's apartment until you, the party, kills the hand-spewing blue guy. Landlord will shoot everyone else, but you have to kill him. Didn't realize that. So that's a no-go also. One item that might give us an edge is the Rat Tail Belt that you can trade the Rat Hole for. It has an agility boost, so that might assist with survival. Maybe that first run we just got really, really unlucky. Yeah, so this is round 2. We somehow did worse. Lantern Rat hit me for 78 damage. Okay, so new plan. We have to expand our roster of human shields. We did see Helen earlier in this run, so maybe with the advent of Helen's involvement, we'll get a little further in Rat Hell. Okay, so I gave Helen all the best gear for this run, thinking that she's, the tankier one, she'll be the one to survive. Yeah, well, turns out that if Sam dies, Colonel Squeakems is technically dead, just like what occurs if Ernest dies. Colonel Squeakems no longer attacks during the battle. So here's Helen standing there, doing nothing. So this run ended here, but at least we learned something. Sam needs to survive. The next attempt went better. Sam has all the best gear again. Helen's just kinda there. Hopefully she soaks up some hits. So we make it through the Sea of Rats and onto the Lantern and Poison. Okay, so progress is being made. This is now round 4, and Sam and Helen are getting the shit kicked out of them, but it's better than our best attempt so far. So this seems like a good strategy. But considering there's 2 more fights after this one, we're going to have to make marked improvements. Okay, this was a doomed idea from the start, but I went and collected Joel. I don't know what I was thinking here. Another body to soak up the damage, but Joel sucks for this. He doesn't have a guard. He only has teething. So he sits there eating himself while the rats eat him too. He's completely useless. This was a doomed one. One sliver of progress though. Squeakems actually killed the poison rat this time around. So there's a little glimmer of hope that's sparkling somewhere in there. A little off topic, but for anyone who's wondering why I don't put full VODs up on my channel, it's because of this bullshit. You want to watch me get my ass kicked and just reset repeatedly for like 2 days straight? I mean, you can if you want to. I just don't think that would be the funnest experience in the world. If you want to see someone slowly unravel and become a lunatic, I'll do it. Anyway, back to the run. So, 3rd reset. This one's a hard reset. I'm not going to be doing the same things I did before. I clearly need to run a different route with Ernest while he's in my party. First order of business, murder all the rats we can on floor 1. They have a chance to drop the rat belts, and they also have a chance to drop the giant rat skull, which is a fairly decent helmet. So, kill as many of them as we can. We'll get rat tails in the meantime. At least we can trade that to the rat hole if we miss out on any RNG drops. That'll give us a good boost in survivability. Second priority, try to go up as many levels as possible with Ernest while we have him in the party for day 1. Squeakems will get more powerful depending on the level of Ernest. Likelihood is we'll get Ernest to level 5. Doubtful we'll push past that, but still, any small increment in progress will help us achieve our goal. Our last requirement is better gear and human shields. Papano can be recruited day 1, and he has some pretty great starting gear. Helen is the only other party member that would stand a chance because of her high health pool. Papano is a guaranteed recruitment, so that's cool. Helen is RNG, which sucks. That'll take some time to get. The gear problem can be solved through rat skulls, the rat belt, and visiting the laundry so that Jean transforms. Then murdering Jean and stealing all of her early game equipment as well. This run wasn't as lucky with Mutt. I didn't get a breastplate, I didn't get a training belt, didn't get anything good at all. So that's out of the equation. Jean must be sacrificed once again for her awesome motorcycle helmet and jacket. Sorry, Jean. You just have cool stuff. While we're on the topic, I'm almost certain that Frankie cranked up the stats of the Hydra, because this thing kicked my ass a little bit. Took a little while to kill too. Understandable considering how good the gear that is hiding behind this guy is. Alright, so it's the evening of day 2, and Sam spent all day learning Nitro Boost, which I think will be helpful. We didn't get Helen today, so I sent the boys in to test out their survivability. As you can see, the boys did manage to tank the Sea of Rats and the Poison and Lantern Rat, and have made it to the 3rd stage of this fight against the Gladiators. Turbo Boost does have a marked increase in survivability, so at least we've tested that. Unfortunately, the boys did not survive past this fight. Oh, and for anyone curious, this will be the 13th game over screen I've seen so far this run. Whoopee! The last attempt was the best yet, so I was very confident that if we managed to recruit Helen and get Nitro Boost, that we would have what it takes to allow Squeakems to murder everything in Rat Hell and actually survive past the Gladiator fight. Another bottleneck for this gauntlet is any one of the party members actually dying. Getting revival items this early on is tricky. I have 3 first aid kits and 1 smelling salts, so I just had to hope no one actually died. Luckily, Pap squeaked through the Lantern and Poison Rat fight, even though he was on fire, with 18 health. Thank God. So we're up to the Gladiator fight, so I'll break down the details. The guy on the far left is called the Brain Rattler. He's got 160 health and he likes to stun the characters in the party, which is lame. The dude in the middle is called the Rotarius. He throws a net over any of the characters and that completely wrecks their agility, so they're not going to dodge anything. He's also the squishiest of the bunch with 120 health. The guy on the far right is the Rodencular. He's got 220 health and he uses that sword to make you bleed, which is frustrating. He can also block, which absorbs most of the damage he'll take. Combined, these guys have a HP pool of 500. If we use the same logic as the previous fight, with Colonel Squeakems doing about 45 damage each turn, then on average we're looking at about 11 rounds that we have to stay alive. Luckily for me, the Rotarius was killed early by Squeakems, and the other two just focused on Pap. So I used his on-break ability to just sit there recovering health while he got wailed on. Thankfully, through hard work and perseverance, we managed to clear this fight on round 13, with no one dead. Started this gauntlet with 18 tonics and was down to 5. Luckily, we hadn't used our first aid kits yet, so that was able to top us off a little bit. When it comes to choosing your last combatant, the Chimera is by far the better choice. You actually get to take your whole party in to fight this guy. If you decide to choose the Rat Champion, you're fighting him one-on-one, and that's just an awful idea for this kind of challenge. I was running pretty low on all my healing items coming into this fight, so I was just praying that we'd get some good RNG. Luckily for me, this guy's weakness is slash damage, and that's exactly what Colonel Squeakems does. So instead of hitting his average 15, he was getting 22 to 25, sometimes 30 damage a hit. This made what is usually the hardest fight in this gauntlet the easiest by far. This guy has 340 HP and Colonel Squeakems shredded him in 5 rounds. So yeah, it took me 15 attempts to beat this stupid gauntlet with these dumb rules that I set myself, but it's finally done. We don't have to do it anymore. We don't need these human shields anymore. We finally have Ernest. By the way, I spent that long on this place that I couldn't help but ponder, who is the giant rat in the background? Not the Rat King. Rat God, maybe? I don't know. Clearly all the soldiers worked for him, so Rat Emperor? Well, it's finally time to actually start this challenge, so let's go back to the apartment and drop off all of the human shields and check out what Ernest is currently rocking. We have a lot of gear for him because of the whole rat hell shenanigans, so he's got a really strong start. Funnily enough, Ernest is still level 6 because he's been kidnapped this whole time. Sam is level 9, which is pretty awesome at the end of day 2. That's pretty extraordinary. The first order of business then is to start exploring the apartment and grind up some more levels for Ernest. An easy place to start is the teeth apartment. Ernest just blasts through these guys with feedback. They don't really stand much of a chance. We've got plenty of defensive gear because of the whole rat hell thing, but I didn't pick up many weapons because they weren't a priority till now. So grabbing the old rifle out of the safe here is a big buff and damage this early on. I had Ernest take on the Teeth Baby just for some extra XP. He's got his rifle, so this shouldn't be much of an issue. I gave Colonel Squeakems some cheese just to test that out and see how helpful it is. I mean, rat hell, it was extremely helpful. But at Ernest's current level, Squeakems doesn't do that much damage, and he tends to blind people anyway, so not that helpful. Our next stop is the frozen apartment, just to blast through all of these guys. Feedback is very powerful. I know I've mentioned it before, but all of these little multi-fights where there's a couple of cretins and there's one main enemy, feedback just tends to rip through all of the fodder enemies in round 1, and then you can focus on the main guy. But even then, they don't do that much damage, especially with the gear that Ernest has. So this is doing pretty good so far. By the way, the combat rotation at the moment is Sam, or Dead, just sits there and blocks. He doesn't do anything else. He doesn't throw out healing items or anything. He's not allowed to. All he can do is block. If Ernest is dead, that's the end. The run is over. So that can't happen. Not at least for the time being. In my Super Dad run, I did have Sam throwing out healing items and wearing gear and using skills that attracted attention to him, but that wasn't the point of this video or this challenge run. So I didn't have him doing that. So he's not going to get the helmet that attracts attention, and he's not going to use Hurt Me Plenty. Nothing. He's just going to sit there eating shit. The only risky fight in the frozen apartment was Pom Pom, since he does have a tendency to freeze everyone, which sucks. You just eat hits. But I had a fair few Molotovs because they're easy to get early game, and I hadn't used any damaging items to this point. So a few Molotovs in and a couple of shots from the pistol finished him off. Dead did die in this fight, which is a really hilarious sentence to say, but that's going to become the norm, so who cares about him? There's no other instances in the game where if Sam is dead and you start a conversation or something, you instantly lose and get a game over. That was only earlier, so we don't have to worry about that. Down in Mutt's shop, we had a really good roll with the crossbow coming up on day 3. The crossbow, for anyone who doesn't know, is quite cheap and is insanely effective because of the special bolts that you can buy from Mutt. The normal bolts are shitty. They're crap. There's no point in using those. But the flame, acid, and explosive bolts, even though you only get a certain amount of them in an entire run, are crazy good. You need to save them for specific, very challenging fights, but they are incredibly effective. If you manage to have this thing going into, let's say, Taxidermy, or maybe even the Boiler Beast, you're going to be in a good place. So with all the recent changes to the game and how defense works and how some of the gear works, you can't pull off the same strategy that I did in my solo genocide run. You can't turtle up with incredibly high defense from the breastplate and have incredibly high damage as well. Frankie's kind of streamlined things, so you have to choose one or the other. Do you want survivability or do you want insane damage? This is the choice that I've been left to make. Ernest, being by himself, most likely needs to have the extraordinary DPS in order to speed through fights. Speed them up so that you don't sit there eating so many hits. The defense angle is a bit lame at this point. Even with the highest defense, you'll still get wrecked by some of the harder enemies now. So, the new priority is to get the coat of arms from Emmanuel in Mutt's shop. To collect that, we need to trade him cassette tapes. All these blue guys who spilled out of the bus have a chance to drop those tapes. So we're going through ground 1 and just clearing these guys out. Okay, so Ernest is cruising pretty easily through these guys. So I figured, I'll take on the laundry worm. Like, how hard could he be? Probably pretty simple. Yeah, I think that constricting got to change. Because this guy constricted Ernest, which he normally does, and it wrecked my shit. Okay, so looking it up, constricting reduces your health by 10% per round. So, yeah. That's lame. Don't get constricted when you're by yourself. Death sentence. And that makes 15. Anyway, so on the way back down to the ground floor, I had Ernest go up against the Rat King, just out of curiosity. Okay, so this is one of our bosses that we need to defeat. He did get a change recently, the Rat King. Now he talks to you, and he offers you a challenge. He will command you to kneel at the beginning of the fight. If you do not kneel, then you cannot get the rusty crown after the fight. It will simply disintegrate to dust. If you do kneel, he pukes toxic acid over the top of your head, damaging everyone in the party and most likely inflicting the acid status effect. You have to do this in order to be deemed worthy, so you can collect the rusty crown after the fight. He'll hand it to you as his successor. So that's what we did. The acid status effect that this deals to you needs to be dealt with immediately. The Rat King has quite a few high damaging attacks and multi-hit attacks. Acid melts half your armor, and armor blocks multi-hit attacks pretty well. If you want to survive those, you need to clear the acid very quickly. Otherwise, that'll melt you before his targeted high damage attack does. Since Ernest's HP is still pretty low, just over 100 at max, I made him use the Song of Defense early on to give me a bit of a buffer against getting one shot by the Rat King's targeted attack, or the 1,000 Claws. Colonel Squeakems was pulling pretty hard in this one. He blinded the Rat King very early on and continuously kept blinding him. I don't know if that's a certain thing to do with Ernest being in the fight against the Rat King, but it came in clutch. This was a tough fight, and Ernest almost died a fair few times. The poison and the disease aren't great, but I managed to hold on long enough to hit him with a couple of fingernail bombs and finish him off with a fire bomb. In retrospect, the fire bomb could have been used a little earlier in the fight just to speed things up, but they are fairly scarce, so I've got to be careful with how I use those. Now with the Rat King dead and the Rusty Crown in our possession, that gives us access to the cheese shop that's run by the two big rats here on floor 1, and also the little rat shop that's run by this dude in Rafter's room. He sells the Sewerage Blade, which is very strong early on in the piece. So we'll be taking that. Our next stop is Frederick's apartment to collect the painting and start smashing through these fake Freds. We're here a little later than is intended, so we're not having any real trouble clearing out these guys. Just turpentiming and smacking them around. For whatever reason, I decided the Fred I would leave alive this turn around was Scared Fred, the blue guy that hides in the cabinet. Not really sure why I decided to do this. I've never done this before, so I wanted to see if it did anything. Maybe the new update added anything. Nope. Here's a fun interaction. So Toxic Fred is the one that has all the little minions running around the apartment, and he leaves out this cowboy hat, which is pretty clearly a transformed part of himself. It's green, so you can tell which one it is. Anyway, if you pick it up and put it on, it'll kill you. He'll try to attack you if you beat Toxic Fred. But if you go to Mud's shop and sell the hat, Toxic Fred freaks out. And if you make fun of him when he freaks out, he goes completely berserk and becomes enraged. Being enraged means that you lose control and you attack anything, be it friend or foe. You can even attack yourself. If you get really lucky, this dude might just end himself. So you get 2 turns in the midst of ripping on him. But turn 1, I hit him with the turpentine just to lower him down a little bit. Once he's started to split, I hit him with a grenade just to lower all of his individual pieces by a smidge. And then he did the rest of the work for me. Toxic Fred is usually one of the harder fights in this entire area of the game, so clearing him out like this is just hilarious. He did not hit me at all in this fight. It's probably the cleanest Toxic Fred fight I've managed to pull off. Honestly, the level of detail that Frankie has put into this game is amazing at times. Rewarding out of the box thinking like this, like taking this item and going and selling it, and having this whole string of branching conversation and consequences due to that is just so fun. It's time to take on our next updated boss, Faceless Fred. At this point, both Sam and Ernest are level 10, which is pretty damn decent going into this. The change that Frank made recently was stopping any damage from overflowing from these previous rounds, these previous stages of the fight into the final fight. So doing damage or over damage to these guys, this form and that form of Fred, don't do anything. You just have to squeak through. That being said, these first 3 phases aren't that dangerous either. Just push through and try to conserve your ammo until the Facetaker Fred escapes the canvas. The biggest issue with Facetaker Fred is that he spams status effects, and he has some pretty nasty multi-hit abilities now. The status effects that we want to try to avoid are acid, stun, and paralysis. Those are the big ones. Anything that makes me lose my turns is gonna be a huge problem. Poison, burn, all the other status effects that do damage, not a huge issue. I came into this fight brandishing the old rifle, thinking it would have the DPS to carry me through, but I haven't fought the new version of Facetaker Fred very often, so I was fairly unprepared. The most glaring problem in this fight was Ernest's survivability. Having to spend turns healing, topping yourself off, and just trying to avoid the status effects was slowing this down. I could not beat this guy in a battle of attrition with 120 health. Alright, so I mentioned this earlier, but I got completely distracted after that reset to the laundry worm and running around on floor 1. I forgot about the coat of arms. So I went back to collect it and gave the Facetaker Fred fight another shot with the sewage blade and the pistol equipped. As it turns out, I was making this way harder on myself than it needed to be. The coat of arms gives you a 50% chance to act twice in a fight, meaning you get 2 actions. So attacking twice, using an item and attacking, healing and attacking, generally making you twice as effective. It's only a 50% chance and it does lower all of your other stats, but as you can see, the effectiveness is insane. I also took advantage of the earlier phases of the fight to apply my buffs and give Colonel Squeakems some cheese to make him a lunatic. Since I had switched off ranged weapons, I also equipped the arrowed sash that Papano has when you recruit him to increase melee damage by 40%, which is why I was hitting those insane numbers with the sewage blade. The next boss on our hit list is the Stargazer up in the telescope apartment on floor 3. I decided to use the old rifle for this fight since I didn't think the sewage blade would be necessary. I will likely need it to clear out the taxidermy apartment later in the game. Not a lot of explanation required for this guy. There wasn't really a strategy. He's probably one of the easier bosses on this list. You're most likely supposed to take him on before Facetaker. He's even easier than the Rat King. You know who's not a pushover though? Spine. Holy hell, this guy just wrecks you. I hadn't seen this unique game over screen before, so I watched the whole thing. It's uniquely terrifying. Okay, so back to the run. We've made our way down to the landlord's apartment so we can get the basement key and progress through to the basement and sewers. The landlord's apartment is uniquely difficult at this point in the game because of the ballistics damage. There isn't much ballistics protection that you can get coming in here. The best bet is the flak jacket, but that is in the basement. I made the decision to simply run through this place for the time being, collect the basement key and return later. I need to kill the Trenchdigger here, but also this is the best area in the game to farm ammunition. And all of the best late game gear are guns. So I'll need to come back and spend quite a bit of time farming. But right now, with 150 health and the majority of my build dedicated to damage, Ernest cannot survive a volley of bullets for more than one round. It's not worth the risk. One of the more recently added enemies, this heavily armored over here, is fairly difficult to kite out of the way if you're on your way to the basement key. I don't quite understand why this dude was put into the game. He's cool looking. I do like the look of him and his design. But he's got 2 shotguns, and shotguns don't do much damage at all. He's kind of here as like a gatekeeper to the basement key, but he is one of the easiest enemies in this entire area. He might need a little bit of a buff just to like give him some more purpose. I mean, a Gatling is more dangerous than this guy, and there's like 20 of those in this area. So yeah. I don't usually advocate for making things more difficult for myself, but this guy could use a tune. So we've made it to the basement and Ernest is now level 12. I believe it's day 5 and the training belt popped up at Mutt's shop, so I've given it to Dead just to increase his human shield viability. I did have to run from the boiler beast down here because Ernest is just too squishy at this point. I will make my way back to him a little later. I did give the sewer beast a go though because I wanted to see how Ernest could currently fare against the enemies down here in the basement. The basement is a big jump up in difficulty. It's basically introducing you to the end game. So, taking on some of these guys and being able to survive is a good indication of what's to come. This fight proved two things to me. One, Ernest's damage is quite good. He's in a decent place to contend against some of these guys down here in the basement and beyond. But two, he is going to get slapped around moving forward. If this sewer beast could almost kill him multiple times, then I'm going to have to employ the blood bag strategy. Alright, here's our last rule set exception. Sam as the blood bag. Basically, what I have in mind is that Sam will take Tickle, the tick, which attaches to him and decreases his max HP by 30%, but unlocks some abilities. The one ability that I have allowed myself to use, well, I have allowed Sam to use, is Transfusion. Transfusion allows Sam, or Dead, to transfuse his health into Ernest. This allows you to revive and also heal during the battle. But I cannot heal Sam at all during battles. So I have a limited amount of healing / reviving that I can use Blood Bag for. Considering some of the fights I had coming my way, this Blood Bag strategy seemed like the only viable way to really even the odds in terms of Ernest's survivability. I needed to lean really heavily into the DPS for Ernest because of some of the monsters that have been balanced to have insane amounts of health and do insane amounts of damage in the late game. For instance, the elevator thing, just the random guy that's in the elevator has 1,000 health. Back at the apartment, I encountered the gun salesman at the door while I was crafting up some more explosives and pale fluid. This was awesome. He had the very illustrious and difficult to find Gatling gun, and you better believe your ass that I was getting the Gatling gun this time around. He did also have the flak jacket on sale, but there's a free flak jacket in the basement. There's no real point getting two. Boy, it feels good to buy this Gatling gun. I get this thing in maybe 1 in every 10 runs, and I've barely ever used it. So the Gatling gun is definitely coming out later in this run. We're quickly approaching the end game now, so it's about time to trick Nesta into becoming an abomination and robbing Eugene's shop. If you don't know how to do this, give the love letter from Rafter, the person stuck in the pipe, to Nesta, and then tell him to give her a chance. She will infest his body, completely destroy him. He'll rip apart, and his head will run off towards Eugene's shop. Let it get there, it'll eat Eugene. Then murder the combination of Nesta Eugene, and you can rob the entire place. I would always suggest this. It is such a huge boon to any run to rob this entire shop and rob Eugene's apartment. There's some great gear back there. Of course, it's incredibly unethical, but desperate times call for desperate measures. One of these days, I'll do a pacifist run where I don't actively murder people to steal their stuff, and I bet that'll be awful. I bet it'll be really hard. So that's on the list. Now that I think about it, I've had people suggest doing a no stealing run as well, as in you cannot use anything that you don't buy. So combining that with the pacifist run, maybe I'll call it the good boy run or something stupid, that might be insanely difficult. Could be interesting. Our next stop is the Spore Labyrinth because we're going to need the extra planet key, but also just to kill some stuff, may as well. We need the additional levels. Ernest is level 13 at this point, and Dead is level 12, which is pretty solid. Ernest has about 220 HP, but only about 10 defense because of the coat of arms. So he is incredibly squishy and gets hit really hard. Our blood bag Dead has about 440 HP thanks to the training belt, so he's the only one keeping us alive. It does mean though, in fights where he is getting targeted first, then Ernest becomes very vulnerable. If Dead dies, well, he's just out of the battle. No way to revive him, and no way to heal him. I'm not doing that. Dead is functioning as an extension of Ernest's HP bar, and that's about it. Here's an interaction I pretty rarely see because you have to get yourself stuck back here to even see it. But the laughing mold pops out of this specific obstacle. If you haven't run into the laughing mold before, he starts a conversation with you where he pitches his stand-up routine, which is tragically unfunny, and he'll ask you for feedback. This is a little bit of a tricky one, since he will wreck your shit if he doesn't like your feedback. You can be overly generous, you can be overly critical. He's looking for a little bit in between, which is hard to guess. He also is incredibly intimidating, so you might lean towards just catering towards him, and he'll pick up on that and get quite pissed off. It's pretty fun. The laughing mold is ultimately not a bad person, so if you cater to him or over cater and say he's hilarious all the time, he'll call out your bullshit, but you just have to say, I just like to laugh. And he goes, oh, okay, well, then you're a shitty critic, I guess. I'll just move on. If you reach an outcome where you don't kill this guy and he doesn't kill you, he'll move on to the survivor camp just north of the Spore Labyrinth and hang out with all the people there. I believe the Spore Mother got a buff to HP recently so that she's not so squishy, but it's kind of hard to tell. Every time I come into this fight, I just melt her, usually with fire. The new firebomb consumables absolutely wreck her. The biggest danger in this fight is getting charmed, but luckily that didn't happen here, so I just cruised through. Easy money. The white mushrooms around this place are worth collecting, by the way. You can craft pale fluid out of them, and then use the pale fluid to craft some pretty decent stuff. Healing things and explosives. It's worth doing. With the Neptune planet disk now in our possession, we can bust into the surveillance room in the basement and steal all of this stuff. We've got the flak jacket, combat knife, and the submachine gun down here, which are pretty helpful. Combat knife is useful in the landlord's apartment because it dices up the soldiers. The next updated boss on our list is the elevator thing. This guy got a very big buff. He now has 1,000 health, and he can lift and drop this elevator on your head. This is the first fight in which I had to use transfusion with the blood bag, but you can see how helpful it can be. It's basically, I'd say, once a battle revive, which I think is fair considering how buffed out these guys got recently. I returned home for a meal at this point and had a very interesting conversation with Ernest. In a rare moment of clarity, he thanked me for allowing him to kill everyone by himself. Ernest promised to make it up to me someday in this conversation, which I was going to make him follow through with by having him fight a kaiju-sized guinea pig with a Gatling gun later on. It's about time to return to the landlord's apartment and start slaughtering everyone for those bullets. Our main target is the Trenchdigger, so he's the first on the chopping block. As you can see, the combination of the coat of arms, the arrowed sash, and the claymore just absolutely mangled this guy. So not much of an issue there. Carving through the soldiers in the apartment, we're chasing the Gatling gun belts and the ammo crates that these guys all have a chance of dropping. Mostly the Gatling gun belts come from the Gatling enemies. The APC that is roaming the battlefield is a relatively new addition to the game. He's slightly different from anyone else here because he's heavily armored, so I whipped out the sewage blade and sliced him to pieces. The RNG drops have been quite kind to me so far. So I have about 4 ammo belts and 3 ammo boxes. I cracked 2 of them. One was full of pistol ammo, which is unfortunate, and the other one was full of the high velocity bullets. The high velocity rifle is another one of those guns that can only be sold by the gun trader, and you just don't see it very often. So keep an eye out for that a bit later on. I was feeling quite confident after returning from the landlord's apartment, so I decided to take on Taxidermy. This guy got a major change in the most recent update to bosses. He has a new 3rd phase, which is pretty nuts. I knew I'd need something heavy hitting to take this guy out, so I gave Ernest the crossbow and sent him in with the intention to use most of the bolts. The acid and fire bolts get the most use here, mostly because inflicting acid first and then hitting him with fire really ups the damage on those flame ticks each round. This is a very difficult fight after the patch. That third phase is scary, but man, the crossbow. Hitting for 300 damage per bolt is nutty. Ernest is now level 15 after beating to Taxidermy, so I went down to the garbage worm fight just to test out his double time ability. Double time allows the party to attack twice in a turn, but it's a little vague about what it actually does, so I wanted to see if it replicated the coat of arms ability, but it does not. Double time just allows your party members to attack twice. Attack meaning press the attack button, not the ranged button, not throw molotovs or anything like that. So pretty much just melee hits. You do 2 melee hits instead of 1 for 5 turns. It could be helpful if you are stacking a melee build, but my Ernest is relying almost entirely on firearms at this point, and I need more utility, like healing and using items during turns, so I'll just rely on the coat of arms. At this point, I was cruising through some of the harder content in the game and felt as though the blood bag strategy was a bit too strong. So I robbed Dead of the training belt, gave that to Ernest, and decided moving forward I'd use the free revive from Dead if he was lucky enough to be alive, if that situation presented itself, but otherwise I'd treat Ernest as if he was the only character in the party. I wanted to test out the elegant suit that you get from Eugene's apartment since it does buff all your stats, just to see if the double turns versus really high stats strategy was better. Antoine seemed like the best target to test this out on since he's a notorious asshole and kicks the living hell out of you, so let's see how this goes. Okay, so not really a contest. The double turns is so much better than anything else. Definitely the highest priority gear and slot. So all my preparation is in place, so it's time to clean up all the remaining bosses in the game. We're going to start with Boiler Beast and work our way through the sewer. Then head up to the roof to take on XIN-AMON. I would normally take on the Exalted 4, but XIN-AMON got a update recently and a big buff. The Boiler Beast was the first on the list to clear out. Luckily, I still had quite a few of my elemental bolts for my crossbow left after taking out Taxidermy. So this guy got to eat all of those. Alright, Furnace. This guy got a little bit of a tinkering recently to make him even scarier. So my initial strategy for this was heading in with the cattle prod spear and trying to stun him and hit him with as much acid as I could. But that turns out to be not a great plan. Stalling against this guy isn't possible because his furnace buildup and massive explosion happens regardless of whether you stun him, sleep him, you can't do anything to stop it. Whoa! Alright, well, didn't work. Okay, so the bomb in that fight absolutely obliterated me. So, the way this guy works is that the more health he has when he does the bomb, the higher damage he does. So, stalling, using defenses, buffing, it's all just wasted turns. You need to deal out the DPS as fast as possible because that will assist with your survival. A lot of these guys' attacks are also percentage based, like the attacks he does between turns and at the beginning of the fight. He'll hit you with a percentage based attack. So having high defense is useless. It's really just having a very high health pool that does anything to assist you here. I didn't want to bust out the Gatling gun for this guy because I was saving that for XIN-AMON, so I rotated through a couple of my options. Holy shit. Not as much as last time at least. Oh my god, just even that hurts so much. Oh shit. Ah, damn it. Super close. Funnily enough, I did manage to get my hands on the high caliber rifle, and since I had so many bullets, I decided to test it out here. Bad decision. Oh my god. It only hit 4 times. It fires 12 shots my ass. I did not fire 12 rounds. Oh, fucking this is gonna kill me. God damn it. Okay. Oh, can I get the double turn, please? 5, 6, 6. It uses 12 bullets. That is bullshit. Man, that gun is a piece of crap. God damn it. I get the silver magnum. Yeah, so the high caliber rifle, shit. It's really hard to get. The ammo's even harder to get. It's useless, in my opinion. It's like a slightly better submachine gun. Ooh. Anyway, time to fall back in the silver magnum and also grab the stun baton from Mutt's shop. So, let's give it another shot. Okay, that's not a bad kit. Let's try that. Yep, does 83 damage. It's health based, I guess. That's super annoying. Ooh, good shot. Oh, nice. Yep, keep bashing him. You're gonna die before too long, so let's get that out of the way. $113, $198. Okay. Oh, didn't even need the elixir. Hell yeah. Another prime example of using the right tools for the job. The silver magnum deletes furnace. Use it on every run. The Hellcar's up next, but it should be okay. I have a couple of explosives, and I'm going to put the high caliber rifle to work. I spent like $1,200 on this thing, so it's doing something. Probably don't have to start shooting you yet. Ow. Can you grab me? Apparently not. There we go. Oh, I didn't make any explosives. However, you can have the super explosive. They are still alive. Oh, shit. Here's a grenade. Well, that was piss easy. Alright, so there's only one thing left to do. Go fight XIN-AMON. So this boss got a bit of an upgrade recently to bring it more in line with the Exalted 4. He's still probably slightly weaker because the fight doesn't last as long. But he's got more health now. He has some evolving stages to the battle. And you get attacked by 4 things simultaneously. So I guess the trade-off is Exalted 4 is a longer fight with more health, and he has the capability to deal more damage, but XIN-AMON is a group fight where he can pile in on you. So using things that hit a whole group of enemies has a lot more utility here, like fire bombs, explosives, multi-shot things. Now that we're on the home stretch, I'll share some thoughts about Ernest as a character and how powerful I think he is. On a sliding scale from Joel being at the top, or where he used to be anyway, and Sophie being at the bottom, I think Ernest is pretty high up the ladder. He might be just below Sam in terms of effectiveness. Considering his ability set of buffs, Colonel Squeakems as a passive status effect dealer with the blind, and general additional DPS for nothing. And just the ability to use guns with Ernest is great. His recruitment method is probably the hardest, I'd say, out of any of the recruitment methods, but it doesn't take the longest period of time. That's roaches. You can't get roaches till very late in a run. Despite what everything Ernest has going for him, I will pitch this idea. I think it would be cool if we could find different kinds of cheese that power up Squeakems in different ways. Like maybe a poisoned piece of cheese, and he eats it and he deals poison instead of the blind passively. That could be neat. Currently Squeakems falls off pretty hard towards the later end of the game, but early game he is pretty great. So maybe something like this could buff him up, so he would be useful moving forward. You know, a piece of cheese that got him to deal passive bleed would be really strong, for instance. But, you know, it might be too strong, and then Ernest gets nerfed. So, that's always the risk, isn't it? Needless to say, I'm going into this fight with a Gatling gun and more ammo than I know what to do with. So, let's see how this plays out, shall we? Arg, what's happening to me? Okay, how to open this fight up? Maybe an explosive, try to stun some. Explosive and a firebomb. Oh, he's using black hole. Ow. Okay, panicking's fine. Ow, please attack the other guy. Oh, stunned a couple. This attempt was going pretty well until something unfortunate happened, and I completely lost my cool. So you might want to maybe turn down the volume for this next part, but I'll show you what happened. Also, I did make a funny noise to cover up an especially egregious outburst. See if you can pick it. I'm trying to kill you, just relax. Can't even use transfusion. Ooh, double turns. Ooh, that's gonna kill dead, alright. No? Ah, it's a fucking percentage-based attack. That's so annoying. Oh, I fell asleep. Fuck. Oh, no. No. Oh, he's dead. Oh shit, wake the fuck up. Oh. Stop sleeping, mother... What the fuck? Wake up, dickhead. Oh my god, this is the longest time anyone's been asleep. This is like, what, 4 turns? Fuck off. That was stupid. Yeah. So, in fairness, that was extremely frustrating at the time. And also, technically the canon ending of this run, but I'm gonna take a mulligan on that one. So, yeah, don't count that. We're not counting that. This second attempt didn't have any unpleasant surprises, so I'll speed through it because it is a bit of a lengthy fight. Oh, I guess one. Oh, okay. Is that it? Surprised one of them actually died. Okay. 290 XP. What? Well, that about wraps up this run. This was pretty fun. Trying to use one of the party members as the main character of a run is pretty different. It had some unique challenges that I didn't really expect, and then trying to work my way around not dealing any damage with anyone else was pretty tricky. The rat hell thing took the longest amount of time in this run. That was a lot of resets, a lot of testing, just trying to do things that no one's ever really thought about. So it poses a lot of unique challenges when you're trying to research how you're actually supposed to go about it. There's nothing there. I had to speed through this one a little bit, especially the editing side of things, just to get it out. Frankie kind of shadow dropped that hard mode beta, and I've been spending a lot of time in there. This run was done on normal difficulty, clearly, because hard mode didn't exist. Going forward, I'd say nearly every run will be done on hard mode, because that's the new standard. You know what I mean? That's the watermark for challenges now. Some aspects of this run were barely possible as is, so hard mode's going to be a whole other level. To help make my point, here's a little sneak peek of hard mode and what you can expect from the old cheese man very soon.
Who keeps saying cheese man?